if we put in metal detectors and armed guards at our entrances, we are still going to be required to have concealed carry in our buildings.
No. What that means for your first 6-month exemption, that means that you can still prohibit carry into the buildings until January 1st. If beyond January 1st you want to continue with prohibiting carry, that's when you have to come up with your plan on how you're going to implement that over the next 4 years. And that has to be in writing, available to the Attorney General anytime they ask for it.
Okay. So what we're doing with an exemption is basically maintain the current status quo.
You're going to maintain the current status quo, giving us time to come up with all options for the council to look at, including cost, as to what it's going to cost you down the road.
Okay.
And I have been in touch with practically all the police chiefs in Johnson County, because we're all communicating about this. And so far, every one of them that's come back to me, I think only one city's not responded. They all have either gotten the exemption or they have council meetings tonight, and that's what they're asking for tonight, to give them the 6-month extension, so that they too can look at the feasibility of implementing this.
Okay, so let me circle back here. There has been no consideration, for the lack of a better term, consideration given to the possibility of allowing the law to go into effect on July 1st and continue to do a feasibility study in lieu of that exemption. So in other words, we allow concealed carry within our buildings while we look at the possibility or feasibility of getting metal detectors, so that then at a later date we wouldn't have to deal with it. So we wouldn't have to deal with 2052. We'd be able to prohibit firearms within the building again.
Okay, you kind of confused me on that. What you're saying is, if we don't request this with the Attorney General now, come July 1st, then your buildings people get to carry concealed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Can we revert back later?
No.
Okay.
You cannot, even with the presence of metal detectors and armed guards.
So if you opt out now, you don't have the option to go back and by ordinance or by anything else opt out, because you have security measures in place. This is an only opportunity to review this thoroughly and implement the plan.
Exactly.
It states it right there.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. This also allows our employees to conceal and carry, correct?
It does, unless you have the proper personnel policies in place to prevent it. So if you do not have personnel policies in place that say you will not carry while you're working, then yes, those employees can carry while they're working.
Okay.
I have a question. This is probably more geared towards Mary. So I know that when all of this is coming forward, EMC Insurance Companies, one of the bigger insurance companies for school districts across the state, said they'll no longer carry insurance on schools that say that they're going to allow concealed carry within their premises. Have we heard anything like that for public buildings and public municipalities through their insurers as this is passed? Although it's state regulation, if we don't opt out or if we don't enter into this window, that they're immediately going to look at us, either raise the rates or no longer choose to cover us.
I have not received any.
There's not been anything or not anything in discussion in the circles that meet the same thing. I guess I want to make sure that's completely clear, that it's been completely understood and that's factual, that if we do not opt out at this moment, enter into the 6-month term, then we can't come back to it with further findings, find out that we can fund it, and then go back into the security measures or opt out of HB 2052. It's a one-time shot, and if we don't hit this window by July 1st, then the opportunity is out the window, and the need for further analysis is no longer necessary because we've made our bed, so to speak.
Heath, I'm seeing Bill Sutton, who helped to author the legislation, shaking his head over there.
Right.
You don't mind if we have him come back up to...
Over the podium twice. Actually, the way the bill is phrased is that if no protection devices, metal detectors, armed guards, are present, then you cannot prohibit concealed carry. It does not say that this is a one-time offer. If in the future you put in metal detectors, armed guards, what have you, then you would fall under the qualification of having those present, and yes, you could prohibit concealed carry at that time.
Okay.
Thank you. I believe that was my understanding of the statute as well.
Do we by any, unfortunately, our packet didn't have a copy of the statute. Bill, would you by any chance know which section of the statute we might look at? I understand, it's 32 pages.
Not
and
off
that's
the
why I
top
couldn't
of my
find it
head. I'm
specifically.
sorry, I can get it to you, however. Or do we come back and...
I mean, the brief, I have to apologize, the briefs that I received from the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police did not outline that. It was it pretty much had that one section that says July 1st, but that was only the brief that I had.
Does that change your opinion of
No.
your recommendation?
Nope.
And why not?
I just think for the safety of our people here that we, I mean, you're gonna be having courts in this building. You got upset people coming in anyway, dealing with judges, everybody else. I mean, it has the potential.
Chief, let me ask this quick question, and I understand it's hard to put a number, but my concern is, and I think Mr. Melton suggested appropriately, that the cost to staff this, and only the city building itself, would be an impossible pill for us to budget at this point with the way that our monetary fees and things are set up. So, and I think it's a right concern. Are we just putting off the inevitable for 6 months? At 6 months, are you going to come back and say, the analysis shows it's going to cost us $130,000 per year to safeguard city building, but then we have to look at the pool, we have to look at the other city-owned buildings, and then we're only increasing that by multiples, which I think all of us right now can look at and say, where's that $150,000 at? And then that changes the 6 months for me. Is that going to change in 6 months? I think we have a pretty decent idea of next year's budget that's not going to supply those dollars. So that's where my concern with it is, and are we delaying something that's going to come back with the expected answer and the expected result?
I guess from my perspective, I have a little bit different approach with the 6-month exemption. Not so much that the cost of putting in metal detectors, I agree with you. I don't think that we'll ever fund that. However, I do believe that our city employees have a right to feel protected. And I do believe that if they want to go get their conceal and carry, that should be a right that we allow them. And I do believe that it can take up to 6 months for the district attorney to approve those applications, for them to go through training. So I think this exemption time will allow them the ability to make the choice as to whether that's what they want to do.
What's your take on that, Chief?
Like I said, my recommendation is, I would prefer to lock the building down, but there again, it's gonna be the feasibility of what's this gonna cost. I mean, we're gonna feasibly be able to do that. I don't know, because I don't have figures and numbers. You can throw out figures of $100,000, $200,000, how, specific do you want to get it? But
Yeah. I'm not going to weigh in with much. This isn't all just about securing City Hall. There's other city buildings. There are employees. I understand all that. I'm trying to wrap my mind around the idea that we'd have metal detectors at the Public Works Shack or something. I don't know that that's feasible either. Christie has suggested that maybe we get everybody armed, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right course either. I got my marksmanship ribbons when I was in the U.S. Navy, but have never owned a gun as an adult outside of the service. But the thought of everybody in town packing kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. I wasn't really...
It's called concealed, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I understand the concept that it's a concealed weapon. I certainly do. But I can tell you, and I wasn't even going to mention this until my good friend Bill mentioned that the concealed carry is already allowed at Celebration Park, and we've got rampant violence there. Well, I mean, it's not allowed at